Hello? Are we live? It might take a minute to get live. Ah. Alright, looks like we're live. Hello, everyone. I am here. I clearly have my game all ready to go. It'll pop up in a second. I am also joined by a special guest today.
Greetings and felicitations, assorted children of the internet. I'm Griffin, aka CyberneticPinkeye, and I'm honored to be joining Lorelei in her first stream in quite a while, actually.
In at least a year. Also, that was a
Yep.
far more professional introduction than I started with, so there you go.
Well, I aim to please.
Sounds like this dude was, well, prepared to show me up. That's great.
Listen.
Alright. So, I'm going to... adjust this a little bit. Let's see. So, I'm going to be starting off with a game that is visually stunning. Please forgive the odd dimensions on the screen. Hopefully, should all be good.
Yeah.
I don't think that there are 1086 people watching. I think it's more, oh, hello, everyone. Hello, people.
Yes.
It's so good to see you. I apologize if there's ever a point where I don't reply to anything that's in the chat, especially if I'm concentrating on what I'm doing. But yeah, I'm mostly just doing this to, like, start off with something chill and to get back into the habit of streaming and, well, being live. No,
Yes.
Queen, don't crush Jay. He is a small. You are also a small.
We seem to know a fair number of smalls, don't we?
Says the tall.
Listen. It is not my fault I stumbled into the lollipop guild of the internet, alright?
Yeah, it's not our fault that you're a bitch. Also,
I mean, that's unrelated, but...
little bit. You a basic bitch. You know, I think that it is actually innate. People want to crush other people. It's just an innate thing of the universe. So,
I mean, you're not wrong.
I guess. I mean, technically, I suppose, literally a function of the universe is the slow, very slow determination to try and crush everything down into a singularity, even as the universe continues to expand. The push and pull of gravity and other physics stuff that I would not be able to detail because I am not scientist.
Yeah, regardless of what theory of our universe's ultimate fate you support, we're kind of either stretched thin or crushed down to a pinpoint of a pinpoint.
Yay, bubble theory!
Yay!
Also, yes, Griffin is a tall. He is, what was it, 6'2"?
6'2", yes.
6'2". He is a 6'2". A giraffe. Okay, Queen.
I mean, I don't think I'm that skinny.
Anyway, so I'm going to start off with the introduction. Yeah. Actione contrarium semper et equum est reactionem. For every action there is an equal and opposite reaction.
Gesundheit.
I was gonna say, did he do it in Latin first, or is that just an extraness with this?
It is the language of science.
Yes, a dead language is the language of science. That seems a little counterintuitive.
One would think.
Anyway, so this game is Osmos. I'm not sure how many of you may be familiar with this game. It's actually a game that I am very... Like, I get stressed out with it because my reaction times suck, but it's actually a very meditative sort of game. The music you can hear, I mean, you'll hear it, especially once we get going, is really full of ambiance, and the visuals are stunning. It's a really gorgeous game.
It's very therapeutic, and you may recognize it as being similar to such games as Agario, and it's sort of the basic principle.
This is you. Propel yourself to the blue circle and come to a stop. I think I'm good. I'll press space for more. Navigate by aligning the cursor behind you and pressing the left mouse button. Now, I was in the circle. This is actually a very good tutorial. So, things that are bigger than you, touch smaller mates to absorb them. Avoid larger mates or be absorbed. And you want to try, you notice that every time I hit the propulsion, there is a little tiny bit that comes out, and you lose a little bit of mass every time that happens. And this is actually a game that is far more based around patience than it is trying to rush. Now, there are instances where you will want to rush and move quickly. I have discovered there are some puzzles that are based far more around... Here we go. Moving quickly to try and absorb things before other things absorb you. Yes, you play as a cell that farts around. That's a pretty good way of describing life, don't you think?
I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's not too terribly far from the truth.
We are cells that fart around. That is the entirety of our existence.
Yeah, when it gets right down to it.
Very meditative sort of thing.
Yeah.
Ambient welcome. Alright, so then they take you on a tour between all of the different kinds. So become the biggest. Now, you can zoom in, and you can see which ones you clearly do not want to be touching. Now, as you notice, things that are hit with my little fart bubbles will actually be propelled by them. So you can actually set things in motion yourself. Now, obviously you want to be careful about manipulating your environment too much, but it can also serve to not only propel other creatures away from you or other cells away from you, but it can also help to deflect them. Like, so you can use it to get yourself moving far away from everyone, or you can use it literally to be like, I fart in your general direction, go away.
And you've never even seen that movie.
What movie?
Monty Python on the Holy Grail, that's what that quote is from.
I wasn't quoting anything. So there you go, I guess.
Jesus. Again, we're going to have to change that one of these days.
BJM, it has been about a year since I last actually streamed. I think there have been a couple of moments or considerations since then, but I have had neither the time nor the energy to necessarily sit down and stream. But I'm trying to get that changed, especially now that I have met that tier on Patreon. I am literally just kind of chatting as I let this thing float around. This is the tutorial level, but...
And again, this is that sort of game where you can just sort of run on autopilot. Somewhat, anyway.
Well, once you've completed the level, yes. You don't want to try and run on autopilot until you've completed the level.
Yes.
But you notice there's things moving around. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yes. Also, anti-hacker, I would certainly hope that this stream isn't going to be just one big fart joke.
No. Just because I made one doesn't mean that it's going to all be that. But yeah, again...
Not exactly.
Sorry, go ahead, sir.
I was just going to say, it's not exactly par for the course. I'd like to think we're a little more highbrow than that, at least most of the time.
Maybe. Maybe we are. Most likely we are not. We are, after all, grown children.
You're not even wrong.
Of course I'm not. I'm always right. You know this.
I mean, I just got finished playing some Pokemon, so...
Oh. Apparently you mixed up Mare with Hacker.
Did I? Oh, my apologies.
How dare.
Sorry, Merity. I'm Griffin!
Alright, so
only the true fans will get that one.
I have clearly surpassed this level. Become the biggest. And this time they're moving. So... And woo!
Yes.
I popped big.
Woo!
And you can actually restart a level, and you can actually actually reconfigure the level, by hitting Alt plus Z. I think you can there's a restart button. I think Z just restarts the level. But if you're having trouble with a particular configuration of the cells, you can actually have them sort of scramble it by hitting Alt Z. I've had to do that a couple of times in order to solve puzzles because it's been frustrating, and the way things were aligned, I was having far too much difficulty with.
Yeah.
As I've mentioned before, though, that is because I have the reaction time of a nut.
I mean...
Not that kind of nut, you asshole.
I wasn't gonna say anything.
Yes, you were. You just said I mean, which meant that you were going to say something.
Not anything related. Never mind.
Well, of course not.
There's no winning in this situation.
Mm-hmm. Again.
Also, BJM, I don't believe we're trying to become a galaxy, just bigger and bigger cells.
Yeah. I mean, 'tis the goal of the universe anyway, to become bigger and bigger cells.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
To absorb the smaller, become the bigger, become the biggest.
I mean,
or actually,
if we're going...
whatever will actually help you to survive, but anyway.
Yeah, if you want to go for a game in that direction, I'd recommend something like Spore.
Oh god, which I also have.
Damn.
I have not played it in a while, and generally speaking, I've never gotten past, the early developmental stages. The actual creature adaptation. I have never gotten really into, the village aspect of it, when you start making them sentient species and stuff like that.
It definitely becomes more of a simulator game from then on, which I have mixed feelings about, but again, on the whole, I remember enjoying the time I spent playing it. I think I got as far as basically combating, I believe, I forget what they were called, but they're essentially a Spore equivalent of the Borg. Yeah, but yeah, it was at some point, maybe midway through the space phase. I will say that I enjoyed a sort of addition they added to Spore, which was sort of bringing back the third-person platform and action gaming aspects of it, where you could play as a sort of evolved version of your creature and go on space missions that were either written by the programmers of the game or made by fans who contributed ideas, or rather made their own missions.
Also, we are now in the Force segment of this game, where you're actually caught in the rotational flow of some sort of central gravitational object. Oh boy. Yeah. I am doing great. Already I do good.
Go Speed Racer.
Shut it. Okay. I've already won. Yes. Anytime that orbit line, the red orbit line, is like that, is red, it means that you are on a collision course with doom. Either going too far out, or directly centered on the thing that you're orbiting around.
Yeah.
Things like this help to create a sense of physics in however you're gathering things, absorbing the others. You have to use the force and momentum in order, because you can't fight it. You are going to be forced to rotate around this. But you may notice also that the bigger you get, your orbit actually changes.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
You can actually correct yourself into a different orbit.
I mean, I'm no astrophysicist, but to my understanding, that's generally how it works.
Yeah, well, the more mass you have. Now, I currently have a collision course with the object in the middle. Which I don't want to have. I really don't want to have. And, okay. Alright. Alright. I'm big.
Yes.
I'm big enough. And there's the thing in the middle, and it's actually really gorgeous.
Yeah.
Okay. Alright. Stable. I'm done. Pinger is gold. What? Alright. For quick maneuvers, click several times in rapid succession. Yeah, it allows you to kind of... So that is... You kind of stabilize yourself and change direction really quickly. Alright. BJM, that is not the sun, but it might as well be the sun.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, depending on who you ask, anti-hacker... I almost called you anti-hamster. I don't know what your position is on hamsters.
I mean... It's kind of one and the same if you pay attention to Overwatch.
Go to your corner.
I'm already in my corner.
Get in your corner!
I am specifically stationed in my corner.
I was gonna say before, some might say that I am already big enough to eat it, but that's
Really,
a fat.
Lorelai?
That's a
Fat jokes. Is that the direction we're going in this good Christian stream?
fatty fat joke. Yes. Boy, watch someone take that and clip it out of context.
I mean, it's kind of what we do.
Absorb the repulsor. So this is something that literally forces objects away from it. That's why it's called repulsor. Ah!
Yes.
Oh god, that was close. No. Okay.
And again, I love how this is supposed to be this meditative, therapeutic game.
Yes.
And right there you go. Just making my point for me.
No.
Thank you.
No! Let me win! I just want to win! There's nothing wrong with winning! I just want to be the biggest and also absorb the repulsor.
Like no one ever was?
Griffin, I realized that you were playing the Pokemons earlier today. But that doesn't mean that you have to make that joke every time.
I mean, not every time. Just dust it off every now and then.
So here I'm just going to absorb all of this extra space, all of this extra cell material. Well, if you're thin and you never eat, then those things might be connected.
I mean, correlation does not necessarily imply causation, but you
Again,
might as well take it into consideration.
so, the repulsor is that tiny thing right here. And I just repulsed it right into me. It tried to escape me, and it tried to do so by throwing other bubbles out, but it ran into another bubble, had to change direction immediately, and found itself actually cornered between too many of the larger bubbles.
Oh god, Queen, that's a scary thought.
A Team Rocket duo? God. Anyway, so, we have absorbed the repulsor. Artificial life. Now, this is another area of the game. Each one of them, there are basically 3 branches in this game. Absorb the ovarium. This is another entity, actually, that is considered to be alive, much like your central figure cell. And it will behave like one. It will try and seek out any possible bubbles to absorb into itself to add to its own mass. And as a result of that, it means that it will also behave like you. Like, if you approach it, it will try to escape. Not out of instinct, but it will make the decision to go, that's a predator, and I could die. Alternatively, it could see you as prey, if it's the bigger one.
We like to call this the Chris Hansen section.
Yes, it is a strumming lore. Hello. I actually really love this game. Again, because it's very calm, despite my screaming earlier. And it's visually fucking amazing. It's gorgeous. Like, and it's actually pretty chill. The gameplay mechanics are pretty simple. They do allow you to eventually distort time, more or less, just to help be able to plan out trajectory and all of that sort of stuff.
Now that is a very scary thought. A cell with the Zewardo ability.
Yeah, but give me bubble, give me bubble, give me bubble. I'm good.
It is fascinating how video games can bring out the most, like, the basest instincts and thoughts from us.
Get that bubble. Get that bubble.
Like, one moment you can be like, now I'm going to wax technical on the intricacies of societal degradation. You turn on the video game, give me bubble!
Well, I mean, that's just us and our conversations at this point. So there, right there, is the ovarium. We are currently bigger than it, and you're going to probably notice it start to exhibit behaviors. You see, it's expelling stuff so that it can escape. It's trying to get bigger so that it can combat us, but we remain bigger, and eventually we're going to want to try and corner this thing. One of the ways that you can do this is simply get big enough and then try to pursue it and trap it into a corner. I try to absorb all of the extra bubbles that I can and try to get it so that it doesn't have much room for escape. And there we go. It's a very, again, this is very tutorial level, and they get far more advanced the more levels that you actually go through. But they do show you one of each type. One of, like, simple become the biggest variety, one of actually using physics to alter your trajectory and try to figure out what you're doing, and one based around various kinds of life forms that you will encounter out in this game. So
I will say I also appreciate the fact that the bigger you get, like, the more sparing you have to use your form of propulsion, because many of you may have noticed that the more you use your jet propulsion, the smaller you get, especially when you're on the bigger side of things. And the bubbles you shoot out will actually feed other smaller bubbles to make them bigger.
Mm-hmm. So you have to be careful, just in general, how much you use it. Which is why, again, this is much more a game that is based on patience. You will eventually drift where you need to go. For the most part. There is some slowdown in bits and pieces here and there. But you need greater propulsion force in order to move yourself.
Yes.
And which makes sense physics-wise. The bigger you are, the more propulsion you need, and the more force is needed in order to move you.
So this game is drift compatible.
Go to your room.
I'm already in my room.
I know. Absorb the
And by room I mean corner.
That too. The biophobe is a type of entity that literally is existing, that its very existence tries to run away from everything else. Yeah, I know how you're, like, laughing because I'm ignoring you.
I just saw the quick transition is like, yes, I know you're in your corner. The biophone. Like, straight on with the tutorial, which I suppose is apt for you.
So it will have that little shiny light, and that will be it. Ah! Absorb. There we go. Yes. Motherfuck. No, it's gonna get bigger. Get away. Get away! I sound more panicked than is led on by what you're seeing on screen. Get bigger. Get the thing. Absorb it. Yes. 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 Oh. I eat you.
I think she's enjoying this game. I'm not sure.
Enjoying? But... I'm terrified of it. Clearly.
What can almost does?
I mean, don't you break out your Spanish at me.
Also, BGM, it's currently around 3:33 where I am.
It is currently 5:33 where I am.
Yes.
Big mystery where I am.
So we'll let you figure out the maths on that one.
The maths? What
yes.
are you
Well,
using?
I mean, if you're in the UK...
I was gonna say, are you suddenly in England? Why are you using maths? It's math here in the United States.
Don't even worry about it.
You gotta use yourself in some fancy mathematical learnings there or something.
Red, white, and blue apple pie.
Bacon. I could go some
Oompa Loompas.
What? Oh. I was gonna say, what the fuck up? Oh.
Took you a second.
Yeah. Remember, right-click to slow down time. If only life were like that.
Yeah.
So if I want to slow down time, and the music adjusts accordingly, but it slows down time.
That life is strange tech.
Yeah. Okay. I think I'm big enough. So it's gonna see me coming for it. And it's gonna decide to try and escape. And it didn't escape. I win!
Yes.
Oh.
JKY, if I were secretly British, I would be much better off because I would actually have free healthcare. Or actually universal healthcare.
Well, you say that, but they're kind of doing a little... They're having a lot of that kind of worked out of the system.
Yeah.
And also... Let's see, can you do an English accent?
I mean, not adequately.
I see. I know that feeling. I mean, I can kind of do one, and I would do one, but I would have the actual Brits in the audience make fun of me because they're assholes against someone who doesn't do it immediately and didn't grow up with it.
I mean, I can name at least 5 people off the top of my head who would never let me hear the end of it if I tried.
I mean, I will say that I did grow up with something of a British accent in my life, but it was my great-grandmother. And unfortunately, she passed away many years ago when she was... I think 91, 92, somewhere in that range. So not bad. And it's funny because one of the things that I absolutely love. So she was a very proper lady. Her name was Victoria, by the way, and she named she married a man named Albert, by the way. So I'm just gonna leave that right fucking there. But one of my favorite stories is actually from fairly late in her life, where she was actually trying all sorts of new things. Like, she was going to some semi-yoga classes and some, some different kind of new age type, courses. And in one of them, the instructors were like, all right, well, for the first day, we're actually going to take the time to get to know each other first. And, we're going to open up, we're going to break the ice by telling our deepest, darkest, desires to each other. And people were kind of going through with, some of their own little secret stories and, things like, sometimes I've just wanted to try drugs just once kind of thing. And then we get to my great-grandmother, and she goes, I would like very much to walk barefoot through a vat of hot chocolate. And, everyone was like, did this 9-to-something-year-old woman just say that?
I mean, everyone's got their guilty pleasures.
But just literally... just barefoot through a vat of hot chocolate. She was probably one of the most prim and proper old ladies that you will have ever met, but that doesn't mean she doesn't have a sense of humor.
Maybe she was a fan of the Smothers Brothers.
The what?
I fell in a vat full of chocolate. I fell in a vat full of chocolate. What'd you do when you fell into the chocolate? Lolly-doo-dum day. Like, no one's going to get that. I realize, even before I started that, I'm the only person who probably even knows who those people are.
But you needed to sing, and that's okay.
Oh, yes. I mean, I'm a friend of yours, aren't I?
True, and I do have the tendency to make friends with people who like to randomly break into song.
There you go.
So I've spent enough time with a biophobe. Congratulations, young moat! Congratulations, young moat. Your training is complete. Sorry, shut up! It is now time for you to choose your own path. Space to continue. So, like I said, it has 3 branching paths, and this is actually as far as I've actually been able to play in the game so far. I have not done the last levels for each of them. So the force areas are the ones that have, the center piece where you have to alter your trajectory and shit like that. Ambient is just where you kind of float around and maybe absorb and stuff like that. I'm sure you'd love Thomas Sanders. I do love Thomas Sanders. I love the work that he does. He's just an absolutely positive force, and quite frankly, we need more absolute positivity.
He's that Vine guy, right?
That Vine guy, he says. Yes, he is the person who got really popular on Vine and has since moved on. I believe he's actually also played JD in a local production of Heathers.
Really? Interesting.
And that was before I knew what Heathers was, so... I just remember...
I do apologize for my pop cultural ignorance. I am not hip with the kids when it comes to these things.
You're younger than I am!
Yeah, even so. I was raised on things like Red Skelton and Charlie McCarthy. That was what I thought was cool when I was a child.
Hey, Atlas.
Yes.
You, Atlas. You, Jay. Oh, God. Okay, hello, everyone. Like, seriously? What? Oh, my God.
Oh my god, she's gone full Orange County.
Don't you fucking...
Am I wrong?
I mean, like, whatever. Okay, like, to be fair, like, this is sort of like the accent that I grew up with because, like, it was everywhere, especially in the 80s and the early 90s, which I'm actually old enough to remember because, like, whatever. But, like, this was, like, in all of the movies and TV shows, like, this was kind of, like, the standard way that girls were, like, talking all the time. So, like, I sort of just absorbed it over the years, this vocal fry thing. And, like, I understand that some people consider it to be, unintelligent sounding, something that is very, possibly even a little bit grating. But, like, the way that it developed was honestly as a way of sort of, like, being able to speak in such a way that people won't accuse you of being, like, seriously, like, rude or something like that. Because if everything ends in a question as opposed to, like, an assertive statement, then you're less likely to be seen as, like, just a straight-up bitch. Which is where this kind of behavior and verbal tick actually came from, but, like, whatever.
I mean, bitches come in all shapes, sizes, and flavors, so...
Quite honestly, I find that the bitch is in the words, not the way that they speak.
I mean, again, ¿por qué no los dos?
It can be both, yes. So, let's go to Ambient Welcome. Was this the one that we just did? I don't think that was.
I don't think so.
Become the biggest. I mean, it'll probably have some similar... So you notice again, as soon as I got bigger, it slowed me down instantaneously. This might be the exact same level. But whatever, I'll do it faster this time.
Yes.
But every time I get bigger, it slows me down because, again, not only am I meeting resistance in the things that I'm absorbing, but it ends up, again, creating more mass with the same amount of propulsion behind it. So, again, the physics are actually pretty fucking sound.
Yeah.
So I'm not just the biggest. I'm the badassest bitch on the block, and I'm gonna eat everything.
I love how you just randomly default to accents every now and then.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's this thing. I don't know if you've noticed, but sometimes I like to voice act, and that actually came from this tendency to just randomly slip into different voices, just in my average everyday life.
I mean, in all fairness, I'm kind of the same way, and I think I inherited...
you are exactly the same way.
And I think I inherited a little bit of that from my mom, because growing up, for whatever reason, she would sometimes just break out into a German accent, and I don't know why.
I mean, she's not German, correct?
Well, she's 1/5 German.
Oh, okay. So she's not German. Okay.
That's fair. That's fair. Again, that's the fascinating thing.
I was gonna say, actually, was she born in Germany? Was that like...
No. She was born in Ohio.
So then she's not German now, is she?
No, but I mean that's the thing. Americans seem to be the only people in the world who give a shit about that sort of thing. Oh, like I'm one part this and one part that, whereas every other country's like, no, I'm Canadian.
Yeah.
I was born in Canada, so I'm all Canadian.
Well, that's just it, though. Like, I mean, I kind of am interested in somewhat of my history because, at the very least, I've got 3 ancestors that came over on the Mayflower, which actually is moderately historically significant. It means that I've got roots going, quote-unquote, all the way back. But that's less, like, I am 1/6 this, and I am 1/7 that. I don't know how you would be 1/7 anything, but, I mean, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
But either way.
Genealogy's weird.
It really is. And I might be able to tell you certain things like predisposition towards certain diseases or other related things.
Yeah, and it can be actually quite helpful. Like, for example, those who are descended from people who survived the Black Plague, I believe, have a little more resistance to HIV.
Yep, there are actually little bits of immunities that carry down genetically. It's really weird, and I'm not
Yeah.
sure that we fully know exactly what causes it. I mean, there are some suspicions, especially because viri do have the tendency to overwrite bits of your own DNA with its own presence. Yep. But certain immunities and certain resistances and even certain, like, allergies can be determined based on a previous exposure that has happened earlier in your bloodline. So, like, there's even, like, suspicion that things like arachnophobia or fear of snakes and other stuff like that can actually be based on an ancestor having an unfortunate encounter with, like, a spider or a snake or something like that. So,
like, and epigenetics just complicates it even more.
I was going to say there's actually sort of a weird genetic history for phobia. That you end up having such a traumatizing ordeal that it literally writes itself into your DNA. Somehow. I find that kind of shit fast. I'm sorry, did we just cross over into a fucking science stream, I guess?
Well, I'm in the stream, so that was inevitable.
You little fucking scientist.
For those of you who are unaware, I have a master's in biological psychology.
Yes, he does. And we're very proud of you, actually, for getting through all of that. It was a fucking ordeal, down to the last drop of it.
It was not great.
He did not have a good time. Having a good time, had a good time!
I mean, what matters is I've got a fancy piece of paper that will let some people know I'm somewhat qualified to do certain select things. That was worth a good chunk of my lifespan.
Rap.
Yes.
I'm still not over the time that I belched and you thanked me for it.
Okay, listen. It was... For reference.
You were tired and out of it.
I was tired and I was sort of running on autopilot and I thought you said something.
No, you didn't. You had... What it was, and this is a thing that I've done it too, where you have like a sort of automatic pre-planned response and you end up crossing the wires between the nice and my saying something like bless you or something along those lines, and you ended up saying thank you. So it was just that wire got crossed, and so I go brat and you go thank you.
Neuroplasticity is a bit of a bitch that way.
Aw, they're all congratulating you.
Well, thank you, everyone.
The biological area is the least favorite area of psychology. Yeah, the biological aspect of it is fun. Because we've got the biological, which is a little bit more, like, hard science regarding psychology, because psychology itself is a very, very, I mean, I hate to say it this way, but it's a soft sort of field. Because a lot of it is based on stuff that is subjective to the human experience.
Yeah, it is admittedly a bit difficult to quantify certain things when it comes to many aspects of the psychological sciences. And that's why many people within the scientific community do not, in fact, acknowledge psychology as a legitimate science, which is a royal pain in the ass, because psychology can be very helpful to a great many people, and the more people who dismiss it, the more people who will be unwilling to seek help for psychology-related problems they may be having.
So this was actually the next level. It was actually a repeat. Now, you may notice that it starts me off in an area with considerably more bigger bubbles than previously, which means that I have to be very careful not to just launch myself into the universe.
Yeah.
I mean, generally speaking, you should be very careful about not just launching yourself out into the universe.
I mean, it's one of those basic things, you know, wake up, get your coffee, try not to swirl off into the endless void.
So this part is where I actually have to start concentrating! I know.
Again, your timing is godlike.
I mean, okay, I have to tell the story about the fucking storm now, don't I?
Yes, you do.
Okay, so today, before the stream started, I actually went out to go, grab a bite to eat, and it was actually something that I had arranged, and I had asked about an hour earlier about the possible trip. And, I go through my usual routine, and by the time I actually get my shoes on, is when we hear the first clap of thunder. We go out and it's already pouring. In fact, it's raining so hard that it's raining sideways. That's how bad it was.
Always a good sign.
So we go out in it anyway because it's like I knew that I was going to be streaming today and I wanted to try and get the food and have time to eat it and enjoy it before the stream actually started. And we go out and it continues to rain harder and harder and harder. Ah! Ikiba!
Yes.
Sorry, I'm trying to tell a story and play this game at the same time, and I am clearly sucking at both! Alright, I'm gonna suicide. Yep, there we go. Anyway, so, it rains harder and harder. We go into our respective restaurants and we pick up our food. We get into the car, and as we're driving, actually, it turns out that, the rain got so bad that there was zero visibility. We actually had to pull over and wait for some of the storm to actually pass. By the time that we kind of get back, looped around onto the correct road and are on our way back, I was like, this is really awful, my timing is fucking amazing, and I said, now just watch, by the time I get home, the storm's gonna be over. We kind of had a brief little chuckle, but the closer we got home, the more the rain lightened up and lightened up. We turned into the driveway that leads into the, to the complex, the residential area. And it's, it's very, very light rain at this point. And I kind of look at my roommate and I'm like, I was joking, right? So we finally pull into the driveway and it is barely a sprinkle anymore. And literally the exact 30 minutes that it took for the trip to go out and grab the food and come back was the exact 30-minute window time frame of this storm.
I swear, why is it that all my closest friends have goddamn superpowers?
I mean, I don't fucking know. Okay. I have a superpower with time. Timing is... I mean, it gets worse with people that I get close with. Griffin, for example, here. We've had this tendency not only say things at the exact same time, but even, clicking the call button at the same time, or hanging up at exactly the same time, or singing the exact same thing at exactly the same time, or, sarcastically singing, goodbye, goodbye!
Or perceiving, the same, non-existent visual patterns in something.
Okay.
You're not even wrong.
Let me tell you one of my favorite examples of that, though. I'm sorry, but sorry to interrupt you, but let me. So, this was years ago when I was living with a different roommate, and we'd actually ordered pizza, and he was actually the one who had the physical cache. I'd given it to him to compile it all together, and I was, following the pizza tracker through the website, and I noticed that it was within 5 minutes of its stated delivery time. So I was like, you know what? Let's just go wait in the kitchen so we don't have to try and scramble at the last second to be at the door. So I leave my room and I knock on my roommate's door and I go to stand in the kitchen to wait for him so we can have a quick little chat before, the pizza arrived. And so he comes barreling out the door and he runs to the front door. He gets his hand on the doorknob and I say, oh, no, it's not here yet. I just wanted to have a chat, before it got here. I wanted to be ready for it. And he relaxes, he he lets go of the knob and he stands back, and just as he does that, comes a knock at the door. He was so startled that he yelled, "God damn it!" That is how good my timing is.
So you have got your timing abilities. I've got a friend who is an empath. I've got a friend who can, or at least claims to see auras, and who can also manipulate his own bioelectricity. Why do my friends all have quirks?
Are you saying you're quirkless?
I mean...
Aww.
Someday I'll find my All Might Sama.
No. You know what your quirk is? Vanilla bean.
Listen. That's not a quirk. That's a defect, all right?
No, that's not a defect. Come on. Actually, most people find it adorable, so...
Well, again, why do you think I call it a defect?
You know what? It's not a defect. Let's not.
God.
Well, let's not be... Guys, let's not go into spoiler territory, guys.
Yeah.
No spoilers, por favor.
Yeah.
But anyway, shush you, sweetheart. I agree. Alright,
Listen.
let's give this another shot. If you hear me screaming, that's why.
Yep. Well, again, timing.
If you hear me screaming, that's why. I'm just really sucking this. Oh god. Alright, this just kind of sucks, so I'm going to...
For anyone lost, look up Husky Scream.
Honestly,
And I'm sure...
okay, it's a video that I literally cannot watch without losing my shit every fucking time. Because the husky, he screamed. Like, okay, huskies make a lot of noise. That is, without doubt, like a standard thing. I know. No! Why did I do that? But anyway, so the husky starts going, ooh, and then like it opens its mouth, tilts its head back, and his eyes get wider, and it just goes, ooh, like,
for anyone morbidly curious enough, I will link it in the chat.
you may or may not be able to do that, actually.
I think I may need to log in.
Yeah, that will be a start.
Yeah.
And when you do that, I will probably...
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, just look up a husky scream. It's a 10-second video just about, and it's... Yeah, you will not regret it.
It's honestly just... God. Also, let me know when you're possibly there and possibly logged in.
Alright, they'll probably take a while with my slow-ass internet.
Yeah, maybe. Possibly. Anyway.
Because again, I made the brilliant choice to live out in the middle of the goddamn woods, where the only internet I can get is $87 a month and about 600 kilobytes a second.
It's very slow internet. It can take like 5 minutes to load a simple GIF.
Yep.
And I'm gonna be spending 2 weeks there.
I'm so sorry in advance.
Well, it was my choice in the first place.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that's gonna be a fun trip. I'm going out to visit him. That's how I feel about it, guys. No, fuck
Again,
him! Fuck her!
The duality of Lorelei playing games. Like yes, let's take a moment to talk about the intricacies of the story and the mechanics of this, and maybe some philosophy behind the events regarding the characters in the story, to...
Oh god, it means that I turned into this nostalgia critic.
I'm so sorry.
Like you're one to talk, Mr. Emulate Spoonie.
Listen. In my defense, I also emulate Owen Citizen, and also Cinema Snob.
I'm sorry.
And also a little nostalgia critic. That's mixed in there too. Well, it's
I know.
It's a cacophony of chaotic nonsense.
Basically, if it was on Channel Awesome, at least in its heyday, he probably was emulating it at some point.
You're not even wrong.
But yeah, so the plan is that I'm actually planning on going out and visiting this motherfucker. It's going to be a 2-week engagement starting actually next week, which is I'm going to be posting a video to my channel soon, also kind of explaining some of the details about streaming. But yes, I am streaming today to kind of get myself acclimated to streaming and try and get used to stuff, at least as best I can, as well as getting used to talking live and trying to read chats and other stuff like that. To prepare for when I actually officially return to streaming on a regular basis. At which point I'm going to try to be streaming once a week, as promised in my Patreon, because that was actually a goal at $250, which I was not expecting to reach, especially so goddamn quickly. But I am there, and I am trying to get everything going. And I am also, by the way, recording these streams, at least as best as I can, so that I can then post them to my channel later. So, I don't know if I'm going to edit them down any. But I kind of figure leave them in their entirety so that people can enjoy all of my screaming.
Yes.
You know what? I can hear the fucking smart alecky grin in your voice when you say
that. You know me so well, partner.
Yeah. I know you're a smartass, so that's really all I need to know.
I mean, again, I'm a friend of yours, so it's sort of a requirement.
Yes, Milorskri. But I'm looking forward to that. We're gonna be recording some super extra special secret stuff while I'm there. We're gonna be just, in general, hanging out. He plans on taking me to a cheese store.
Yes, not only a, well, this may be a bit of a spoiler of the general area where I'm, well, it's a cheese factory, but also a grilled cheese bar.
Mm-hmm. Which is pretty much exactly what I want in life, so.
Yeah.
I mean, there's also, like, there are a few places that I want to visit by virtue of the fact that they have cheese. There's this one restaurant called the Raclette in New York that, upon seeing it, I was like, oh my god, I must be there.
Yes.
And, you know, cheese-based dining is the quickest way to get me interested someplace. There's also apparently some other restaurants in local areas that he wants to spend those 2 weeks shoving food down my throat. And I'm like, you know, dude, keep your inflation fetish to yourself.
Listen. First of all, don't judge. Second,
I mean, I get to judge when I'm the one you're fucking feeding.
God. We gotta be careful about, like, who may be listening to these sound clips.
So, matter plus antimatter equals annihilation. So, the antimatter bubbles are ones that will actually diminish you if you absorb them. I think. So you don't want to absorb them, just so you know. I mean, we're going to be doing more than just eating. It is going to be hanging out. There are going to be some things that we record and take advantage of my actual physical presence to do. You know, again, I need to be careful about how I phrase these things.
Again, yeah. You're not really helping.
I really can't help these things, apparently.
I guess not. But, again, I'd be lying if I said that the food scene wasn't a big part of it, because for anyone who knows me knows I'm a goddamn foodie. I mean, when I was in high school, I was legit considering going to culinary school when I graduated. Ultimately, the only reason I decided to go with a science major going to college was because I figured it'd be easier to find a job. But I am a sucker for all things cooking. I was one of those kids who, or teenagers rather, who always watched Food Network and Cooking Channel, and cooking anime are a guilty pleasure of mine as well.
Motherfucker, when I click, I want you to move, you son of a bitch!
You sound like a goddamn parakeet. like that one parrot who freaked out when he thought his owner had disappeared.
Yes! That was literally what I was just referencing, yes. We watch a lot of videos together, you might have guessed.
Yeah, we watch a fair bit.
Did it again! I'm mad. Okay. Squee. Oh God! Oh mother! Oh! Hello. I am not one of those gamers, I swear. I just am so bad at this!
That's when you know it's gonna be a good stream, when I start going full Muttley with my laughter.
Yes.
And you start turning into a banshee.
I mean, I guess that's like my dark side or something like that. Instead of M. Lorelei, M. Banshee.
Like... Oh, boy.
Instead of a siren, I use a voice that causes people's ears to bleed. Oh wait, that's every other day. Ha 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 ha!
Hey.
Hey, I was just being self-deprecating, you bitch. Hey, that was funny. Fuck you.
I mean, well, you always rib into me when I try and convince you that you're not what you were just joking about. So I figured I'd take the opposite approach. You know, revert. Yeah.
There's no way to win. You should know that.
I mean,
so every
whatever
time...
way I get a laugh out of the situation is a win in my book.
You're a dick.
Well, yes, it is known, Khaleesi.
Again, every time you call me Khaleesi, you're not helping things.
Yeah, again, neither of us can really help any of this. Case in point.
I've already won the level, but fuck it. Okay. Become huge.
The funny thing is that it sounded like a giant balloon deflating or something, which I suppose is appropriate for the visuals.
No! Fuck, 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 fuck! I don't want to do that! Ah! This is a puzzle.
Yeah, I mean, yes, it is.
Fuck, 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 fuck!
Anton Denny in the chat. Velociraptor Screech.
I hate this one. I hate it.
Real, I can't possibly imagine why.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Onyx. Good to see you. I'm so glad that you're here. I just watched the video preview for my stream, and I'm like, I just watched myself get absorbed.
It's gonna be a good day.
I don't think it's gonna be a good day when I'm screaming like a banshee.
When I'm screeping.
While I'm screeping. Fuck you! Once upon a time, he said something that irritated the hell out of me, and instead of saying fuck you like a normal person, I decided to go fuck you!
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Everything you do is musical at one level or another.
I guess hence the Ballad of Lorelei. Plug, plug, plug.
Hey.
I mean, honestly, I've been very proud of what I've been doing for that so far. I am hoping to have another episode out soon. I will have to be poking someone for voice stuff.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it as well. I am thoroughly enjoying what you are producing. I just went into an accent again.
Mm-hmm. Wasn't it you that was complaining, or, well, commenting?
I wasn't complaining. I was just stating a fact.
Hello, Archer.
Yes.
Hello. But gee, I can't imagine why you might be intrigued by what I'm going to be possibly doing.
I can't possibly imagine why. sound like that one frog, the one that like squeaks when it's threatened.
That's no way to talk about Suchan.
Hey.
And now I'm just picturing her going like.
No! No, I don't want it. Sad fact is, it's probably out there.
I love that Archer's comment of, "Oh my god, I love that frog," came up like after we were talking about Sucha. I love that. You know what? I love that frog too.
I was gonna say I love that frog as well.
Yeah, it doesn't look good. Is basically give the fuck up now, you bitch.
Yeah. For anyone who's feeling a little lost, just do yourself a favor and watch My Hero Academia. Just do it for you. Treat yourself. Treat yourself.
Look at this bitch trying to...
Look, plug one of the best shonen anime in the last few years.
Oh god, I remember how to do this now. Okay, I fucked up. For fuck's sake. How did I forget this? Remember how I was talking earlier about how you can use your own fucking thing to nudge things out of the way?
Uh-huh. There you go.
Well, I fucked up anyway.
But, again, you get the idea.
Yes, anyway.
Oh, boy.
And then it becomes a matter of patience. Wait until they move far enough away to create a gap to move through. Nudge yourself through. Make sure not to get too close to the biggins. Keep going, keep going. You can go. You can absorb. They're getting so big. Oh,
yes.
You can do it. You can do it. Come on.
I think I can. I think I can.
Oh god, and then of course after the first one gets absorbed...
Yeah.
You gotta
the little amoeba that could.
Amiibo or amoeba?
Which do you think I said?
Clearly you're a Nintendo shill, and I don't know why I invited you here. And I've won.
I miss when Smash was good. I've probably pissed a lot of people off.
Maybe. There's a possibility.
Okay, listen. Like, what I mean by that, when I say that, is that I miss when Smash didn't hide, like, most of its characters behind money walls.
I mean, you're not wrong. I miss an earlier time in video games, too, when you would actually have all of the content there. You just had to play long enough to actually unlock the characters, as opposed to having to pay for it. That you could conceivably actually play the game long enough, not at an exorbitant level of having to play the game, of course, and still be able to get some of those extra features. Now you are literally, required to pay for those extra features.
Yeah, like, I just miss when people made finished video games, and I miss when, well, video games weren't replaced by live services, and just, I don't know, like...
See, Atlas, even that, I kind of don't, well, if it's actually literally only 1/3 of the game and the other things are actually locked behind a paywall, then that is an issue. That's, in some ways, I can kind of understand the business model as long as the thing that they released is actually a complete game in itself. But if all you get is literally just a sampler plate that gives you absolutely no content whatsoever and is literally just meant to be enticing you into buying more, this is the thing. These companies are not really hurting all of that much when it comes to the actual production. The main ways that they're hurting when it comes to producing, especially AAA games, is when they try to use motion capture and a lot of elaborate and over-the-top expensive things like hiring Hollywood actors when they could find someone whose job it literally is to be a voice actor to fulfill the role. They do all of these needlessly expensive things, supposedly for the sake of something like um, for the sake of like having a press release or something along those lines. But it ends up making the game production more expensive in itself. But with digital distribution being a considerably more consistent and not just viable but almost mandatory method of distributing your games, the cost for producing a game has gone down considerably. And especially in terms of distributing it and everything else, like there's so many things that they actually they don't have to construct their game engines from scratch anymore. A lot of them actually make the game engine once and then they keep using it and possibly updating it over time. And all of that stuff. It's really frustrating to see gaming moving further and further away from the single player experience and focusing increasingly on either the multiplayer or the what's it called? The open world model, where it's all about exploration, which again in itself isn't a bad thing, but if I am playing a single player RPG campaign, I don't want open world exploration. I know that there's some games that can make that work, but like I remember being really disappointed in Dragon Age Inquisition because it added so many open world elements to it. It tried to co-opt Skyrim and crafting and all of this other stuff into it that was completely unnecessary and ended up spreading out the story too thin if you actually wanted to explore all of the environments that they actually tried to create. I'm sorry, I'm also trying to... There are good DLCs that exist, and there are some people who do actually have a lot of common sense when it comes to the construction of their DLC, that it actually becomes a bonus that is optional as opposed to something that is required to make the game feel complete and authentic. Like, Mass Effect 3 had a bonus character available upon launch that actually added a lot to the overall story and had some impactful moments overall on the understanding of the universe, the lore of the game, as well as events in the game that end up feeling more hollow if you can't have this character. It's literally an aspect of the game that was sliced out so that it could be repackaged and sold to you upon release. Now, I get why they may feel that they need to do that, but it ends up creating a dissatisfaction with the base game, especially when you don't have an additional $10 or $20 to shell out on top of the $50 or $60 that you're already dropping for the base game.
Like, I'm very much old-fashioned when it comes to my opinions of games, in that, like, first of all, I don't understand the necessity of DLC, because like when I was a kid, when you played a game all the way through and you wanted more of that kind of game, there is a different word for what we have today, and it was also a way in which people could make more money, guaranteed, and they were called sequels. They would often implement the same engine. Like, it was a continuation of the story where it had a different premise, it had the same characters, same engine, so you could get back into it. But again, it was a new game. It was a full new experience, not just a little additional patch slapped onto it after the fact. Like, it's not something that was either, added on at the last second or intentionally cut out from the get-go to be shoved awkwardly in later. And I am one of those people who does not like the idea of paying for a video game more than once.
Yeah.
I mean, I see video games much in the same way as I see movies, in that once it hits shelves, that's it. That's the game. That's everything you should ever need, or everything that game should ever need is right there in the box. And yet we live in an age where we do have mandatory updates that inhibit your ability to play the game, or DLC that is made by cutting out vital parts of the pre-existing story, or that are just haphazardly slapped onto a story, at a second thought after the fact. And I just enjoy like complete games and sequels, where you could just like put it on a shelf and say that's the finished product, and it's always going to be that way. It's not going to be changed by some. I feel like
Oh,
a lot of
Jesus.
games these days are very much like you want to play a game, but the moment you try and play it, some people kick down your door, grab the game away from you, and then drive off with it for several hours, and then return and give it back. But it's got like a sticker on it that says version 1.000.000.000. Screw you. I feel like that's modern gaming in a nutshell. And it's one of the reasons why I've sort of unfortunately fallen out of love with video games as a whole, with very few exceptions.
I've heard that Witcher 3 is pretty good as a game, but I've actually become rather disillusioned to the company in particular. CD Projekt Red has been, like, especially after they ended up gaining a lot of people, a lot of the bros who were alienated from DA, for example, Dragon Age. For fuck's sake. They ended up really cornering the bro market.
Mm-hmm.
Which in itself is like, no. Okay. Anyway, long story short, their business practices have been questionable. They have not always treated their fan base the best way. They love incorporating as much as they possibly can in terms of like sexual portrayal and stuff like that. Like they actually included, like it's one of those. It's fine if that's a genre that you like, but it's not something that I personally enjoy in terms of gameplay. And I prefer customizable main characters so that you can really feel like you are playing a role that you have created as opposed to playing a pre-created role. Yeah, honestly, Undertale has some of the best DLC in that there isn't any, and that's great because it's a complete fucking game.
Exactly.
It is a complete game. You get multiple playthroughs. You can have... It's very intuitive and very responsive to the sort of playthrough that you're doing.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing. I appreciate a big factor for me enjoying a video game is replayability. And I think the best games out there are complete games that are untouched the moment they are put on the market, that can be played over and over and over again through multiple playthroughs. And it'll take a long time for you to get sick of it. Like one of my favorite games of all time is Star Fox 64, and Star Fox 64 for the 3DS. And anyone who knows that game will know what I'm talking about. It's a rail shooter, but it has branching paths, and there are very different ways that you can, go through the game. And again, there are a couple different endings you can get. And so it's very possible to play the same game multiple times on with different difficulties, with different paths, with different things that all make each playthrough feel unique. And it helps even better when, like, it's kind of randomized at some points. Like, I love I enjoy the occasional mystery story, but honestly, I think when I think back to like PC games I played when I was a kid, I had mystery settings, but the culprit of the crime was different every time. That I feel is something that's missing from a lot of video games these days. Like, I won't go into spoiler territory, but I think a big thing that would have made Danganronpa even more enjoyable is if, like, they varied up or they randomized who the culprit of each crime was for every playthrough.
Oh, oh no. Oh, no. No. I'm doing it, but oh God.
Stay determined.
I'ma do it. I did it this time.
You got this, partner.
I am doing it. Oh, no. No. I'm referencing the No Cat, by the way.
I was about to say...
No. basically Griffin's feelings towards video games in modern age. No,
You're
no,
not even
no.
wrong. I mean, I will say thank God for the indie scene, because a lot of indie games out there are actually making complete polished games that remain untouched the moment they're put out, that don't need all the fancy schmancy DLC, or, you know, like there's some things that have like a DLC technically, but they're more actual sequels using the same engine, like Shovel Knight. Shovel Knight has like a completely different story involving a similar character, and many people think of it as DLC, but I think you have to pay for it separately. And I feel like if it's DLC for the same game, I feel that should be free, personally speaking.
I mean, it depends. It also depends on, like, what kind of work has gone into the DLC and if it is something that is actually worth paying some extra money to get into. I don't mind the concept of DLC on its own, and I certainly don't mind paying for extra content. What I don't like is when they take an aspect of the actual game itself, slice it out, and then tell you, hey, pay an extra $10 for something that actually is supposed to be in the base game.
Yeah, and then you've got another layer of BS with a launch day DLC, which just proves to me that, okay, they did not put enough love and care into this to iron everything out for release day.
Yeah, well, I would say day one patches, no less. Like,
yeah, exactly.
They probably had to have a version for the actual release, but then they could see where the bugs were, so they had to work on it. They had to have a prototype version to be ready to launch, like to send out to the various stores, to send out to the various locations, so that they can have a physical street date as well as a digital distribution date. And knowing what issues are theirs, being able to still polish it and be able to release a day one patch, that's not terrible, but that is in itself kind of its own condemnation of the AAA development of video games as it is. Because if you have to push something to the point of having a release that's buggy, and like a lot of companies are even increasingly relying on that.
Yeah.
Like it's they're literally relying on the fact that, oh, well, we can just patch it afterwards. Like, no, polish it the first fucking time. Make sure that when it goes out, it's worth something.
Yeah, I'm just sick and tired of AAA developers George Lucasing my video games.
Oh, God. Well, except George Lucas, once upon a time, released full movies and then decided to go back and revise them unnecessarily.
Well, that's what I mean. That's what a lot of people are doing with video games, like with all the mandatory updates and all these things that are afterthoughts.
Well, but I was going to even say, like, this is an attitude that kind of works with any kind of creative field. If you're creating something, if you're doing something for art, you have to make sure that the very first thing that you release is just as polished as you can possibly make it. You might still go back later and try to fix it, but you want to have the strongest first impression that you can. And if you don't put the time or the energy into actually doing that, then you're not going to hook an audience. You're not going to have people interested in what you're doing. And I say that because I'm reminded of one of the first groups that I was ever a part of, like especially in terms of major production and everything, and the one that I met Alex on, actually. It was implied to be this big thing. There were some relatively big names associated with the project. You had a lot of people who were really excited to work on things. And the first thing that the director released and posted to the public, even before even really letting us see what it was before it went up and not really double checking, was a video where he had not recorded the footage in such a way. Okay, so it was a dubbing Undertale project. And the way that he'd recorded the footage, he didn't allow for the dialogue to run. He didn't allow time for the dialogue to run, and he didn't know how to edit it in such a way, so especially so that the music in the game would not skip or very obviously reflect that there had been some editing done. And it meant that instead of going back and re-recording the footage to be dubbed, he tried to either cut off, like shave off the ends of people's performances, or actually kind of speed them up a little bit, and it would end up sacrificing the authenticity of performance, because you would have some characters whose lines would be like, I see what you're doing. I don't think that like, it would be very clearly no space for a natural flow of conversation. And there were times when it was so fast, when it came through to skipping through the dialogue, that the actual recorded dialogue, again, the whole purpose of the project was to dub the game, and the dialogue was fucking skipped. I'm going to reiterate that. And so, okay, then... Okay, I'm dishing super secret stuff on this stream, yay.
I was gonna say, welcome to Throwing Shade with Magic Lorelei.
Well, this is an example of what not to do. Okay, so, other than that, instead of, say, phasing out, like, the puzzle sequences or anything that carried on too long, he ended up implementing a fast-forward feature. And it ended up, first of all, skipping over someone else's dialogue that they had actually clearly put a lot of thought and performance into, so it was a mess. And at some point, someone actually made the argument that it's okay, it's important to just get something out there. You can always go back and fix it later, but, like, you can get better from here. And I'm like, but if the first release that you put out is bad, no one is going to come back for part 2. They're going to think that this is what you started off with. Maybe you got better, or maybe you just stayed at that same level, but it doesn't show any attention to detail. You can always get better, but you can't really... If you don't show that you care about the quality of what you're putting out there, then people aren't going to care enough to come back.
It is frightening how little forethought many people put into large endeavors like this on the internet.
It's one of those, like, it's... Like I said, just try to be careful about how much like, how much effort you put into it. Try to make sure that the first thing you do is the best foot forward that you possibly can do. If you improve over time and you notice small details that you can change or improve on later, that's fine. But try to make sure that your first go isn't, that's good enough.
Hint, hint, AAA developers.
That's just it, though. Like, that's why I have a lot of contempt for AAA developers. Like, you know what? I want to love some AAA developers, but they are far more invested in selling us a game or an idea of a game, and they're all becoming really samey, which is the other problem. We're getting a lot more games that are focused on whatever they think is the flavor of the week. We're seeing right now an increase in Battle Royale style games. Yeah. Which is not my genre at all. And this is on the heels of the multiplayer. This is on the heels of especially the open world exploration style leaking its way into every single game, because it works so well for Skyrim, and it works so well for, what was it, Skyward Sword? Or
I think you're thinking Breath of the Wild.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize to all the Zelda fans out there. I think the games are fascinating, but I have not personally played them. I've never had the consoles to really play them. So I do apologize for my lack of knowledge, but this is a poor person that we're talking about here. I never could afford them in the first place. We've got the first-person shooter genre, which has become incredibly popular. I cannot play first-person games, or first-person shooters especially. The exceptions being, like, for example, Overwatch, but that's because it was literally structured to be better for people who are not used to first-person perspective games. Yeah. And I can play some of Portal, but I can't actually make it all of the way through Portal because one of the puzzles towards the very end ends up being relying on reflexes that I do not have.
Yeah, it's gone so bad that I've gone out of my way to actively avoid anything related to EA this past year. Because I just can't stand it. And here's the thing, like, all these people are rushing development as much as they can, cutting as many corners as they can to try and get something out for like whatever
Right.
market window will get them the most sales. Whereas someone who actually gives a damn about what they're doing will take up to a decade developing a game.
I'm gonna guess that anti-hacker BG was talking about how there is the Battlegrounds or whatever it was, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, which is was trying to sue the makers of Fortnite for stealing their ideas. But like, unfortunately, as it has been pointed out, it's actually true that you really can't copyright, so to speak, an entire genre of games. You can obviously copyright the artistic and visual development and those aspects of it, but the actual genre of something is a lot more difficult to claim. This was our idea, you can't do it.
Looks at the Fine Brothers.
But, oh god, don't even. I mean, honestly, I'm probably going to be only going for about maybe half an hour longer. I might go a little bit longer than that, too. I know that the Internet Remix stream is going to be starting shortly. And for those of you who can't divide your attention between both, I understand. I've been going on for some time here today anyway. And at this point, it's become less about gameplay and more about me sitting here expositing about my feelings about video game developers.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, people watch Let's Players, like, for the Let's Players. Anyone who watches, like, Let's Players for, like, the gameplay, I think they're looking for walkthroughs.
Well, that's true, too. And there are several people, by the way, who do that and get pissed off at the people who are talking. And they're like, God, another person talking over the video game. That's not what I came here for. And it's like, well, there's a simple solution to this, you know? There's a very simple solution to this. It's called when this comes up, you hit the back button and you leave. Like, when you notice that there's commentary, which usually starts immediately after the video does, you hit the back button and you leave it. To stick around and to watch it like, oh, these people are talking. Oh, it's like, okay, but you knew that at the start of the video, so... And to sit there,
that reminds me...
to sit there and comment about it tells me that you really have nothing better to do with your time than to sit there and complain about something.
It reminds me of like my favorite ProZD video where he's like, you know, like shit. Let's Player watchers say, he's like, why aren't they using fire magic? Don't they know they're weak against fire magic? You know, you could just stop watching the video. No!
Oh my god, So, ages ago, and one of my biggest starts early on when it comes to creating content and my Let's Plays and everything, was when I was playing Dragon Age. Now, in Dragon Age, if I play a rogue character, I am most likely to play the dual-wielding, and to play them as sort of like a swashbuckling, you know, haha, I saved the day! I am going to be the charismatic person in the middle of battle! And I had someone tell me, oh, you're playing a rogue wrong. You're supposed to use poisons and to sneak all around everywhere. And I'm like... Okay, well, 1, here you can see that I'm having fun. 2, you can see that I'm still beating the game. And 3, you are inherently wrong because rogues are supposed to be multifaceted individuals that can be played either either through the sneaky, poisony, stabby in the side route, or the person who just uses their speed in order to do more damage while being in the middle of combat. And to evade being attacked. Like, that's kind of the other part of the dexterity, is being able to, like, swoosh around when they try to stab at you so that you are effectively able to draw attacks towards you and still not get hit.
Yeah, like, that's the thing. Like, people play video games to, well, play the video game. They're not setting out, like, unless they are trying to get all the top scores, you know, a la Vriska, and just beat everything and go by a strict set pattern. Like, they're just going to mess around and see what they can do with it. Like, and unfortunately, there are some games out there that are, I feel, just not great for Let's Plays. And unfortunately, I think one of the best examples of this is Undertale. Because there were many people, for the longest time, who were alienated from Undertale because they heard the horror stories of the comment sections of people putting up LP videos of Undertale because of all the multiple paths you could take, whether it's, you know, neutral, pacifist, genocide, and any combination, you know, it's one of those things where I get it. You want someone to have
the
the
best
same experience.
well, the best possible experience that you can. There are some
Yeah.
aspects to. I mean, I tend to prefer. Oh fuck! I tend to prefer like the story elements of the pacifist route, but that's because I mean, there's a lot of emotional satisfaction that comes out of that. But like, part of the whole point of that is you get the emotional satisfaction because you. Oh fuck! Oh, I'm dead. Yeah, I'm dead. Anyway, you get the emotional satisfaction out of it because you persisted without necessarily knowing, although in most cases probably yes, in never attacking anyone and making your way through the game without ever actually killing anyone. Like, that's supposed to be your reward for doing something that is not typically done in an RPG. Being told, oh my god, you're doing it wrong! When you're just trying to play a game for the first time is incredibly counterintuitive for playing this game in the first place. Like, the whole point of it is that, you know, you kill Toriel the first time, and then when you do that, you reload, like, I didn't mean to do that, and you reload, and this time you spare her, and then Flowey fucking calls you out on it. And that is part of the joy of this game.
Yeah, and Flowey even calls out, like, let's play culture at some point. I won't go into details as to avoid spoilers, but many people who have played the game know exactly what I'm talking about.
Well, without necessarily any spoilers, at one point, Flowey calls out not just your behavior if you're following the genocide route, but also the fact that there are some people who literally can't even do that they can't even bring themselves to play that route. Like, I'm one of those people personally. I've watched the genocide route without actually having played it. And Flowey literally goes, you know, okay, this is a spoiler, but Undertale's been out for a couple of years, and there have been musicals produced over this, so anyway. And literally says, I bet there are people out there right now that are watching this, or you know, I bet there are people out there right now who are watching something, you know, watching you do this, or something to that effect. People who watch other people do this without even having the guts to go through with it themselves.
So, it is a weird feeling, or a weird thing to think about with regards to, like, individual versus shared experiences with gaming. Like, I myself am very much a proponent of offline only gaming and, like, local multiplayer, because I feel like everything is kind of emphasizing, there's far more emphasis on like mandatory online multiplayer and things like that. And you and I have had this conversation before, so I won't go too much into it, but I feel like there's less emphasis being put on the, like, ensuring the enjoyment of the individual playing a video game, as opposed to trying to, like, appease masses of potential clientele. Like, just tell, if you're making a story-based game, tell a cohesive story that a single person can enjoy through one or multiple playthroughs. Or if you're making like a gameplay emphasized game, make something that has a lot of replay value that you can possibly share with other people if you choose to do so, but something that can be played multiple different ways and doesn't need to adhere to any, like, given strategy or philosophy behind it. Again, I know I'm very much a stick in the mud and old-fashioned when it comes to my opinions of gaming, so I know it might not, that might be sort of a lost school of thought when it comes to game development, but I do see many people putting that extra effort into it and taking their time. That's the most important thing, taking their time with developing the games. Like, perfect example, D-Pad Studios and their game Owlboy, which took 10 years to finish. And that is no hyperbole. They took 10 years developing this game and went through various iterations before they said, you know what, we are satisfied with this. We like what we see. We are going to put this out because we are proud of this. It's a gorgeous game. It's visually beautiful, great pixel art, like great, you know, mechanics with the game, enjoyable story. It's fairly simple to get into, and again, not really a steep like difficulty curve with progression. It's one I would very much recommend, and it's why I will never stop singing the praises of indie developers, specifically indie developers who take their time, as opposed to many people who just try and cash in on things like
whatever's
the
currently
Steam
popular.
Greenlight crowd.
Oh God, Steam Greenlight is a fucking piece of shit. It is garbage. It is disgusting. I mean, I say this not because it allows independent developers to actually get something of a foothold in a business that is actually otherwise somewhat difficult to get into.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about the individuals who literally put stuff out there because they are trying to just make a quick buck off of a shitty game idea. Where they don't they just pre-purchase all of their materials, all of their creative stuff. Oh God, hang on. Sorry, gotta concentrate on grabbing. Okay. Sorry.
No worries.
Who buy like pre-rendered packs from like different stores and then they do absolutely nothing to them. Some people literally purchase games that were already created and then put up for like, here, use this as a model and then create your own game. They use that to not to not actually make a game and literally just re-release it.
So again, like there's a spectrum with this. It's like it's not either you're 100% for AAA developers or you're 100% with indie developers. I think there's a spectrum to it. I fully support indie developers who give a damn. Yeah. People who actually want to put in all the time and effort necessary to see their vision through, want to ensure that it's a finished product that people can enjoy individually or share with other people. It's and they leave it up to choice in the matter. I hate that so much choice is taken away from players these days. That's what irks me the most.
Yeah, that's kind of an issue that I have with it too. Honestly, just player choice gets taken away so much, especially in what kind of games we have. We don't have oh fucking Christ. Okay. We don't have as many options as we used to have when it comes to video games. Like they keep trying to tell us, for example, that like horror genre is dead, or they keep trying to tell us that single player is dead, or like, that certain things that are legitimately like still things that people enjoy in their video games, and we keep getting told, oh, this genre is now dead. This no longer exists. People don't like this anymore.
Yeah.
And it's but I enjoy them.
Yeah, like for the longest time, I was of the opinion that RPGs are dead. Up until around 2015, and I'm sure most of you out there can imagine what changed my mind.
You mean the thing that literally took you over for like a couple of years there?
You're not wrong. But, and the reason I had come to that conclusion was because there was so much kind of repetition in the genre from AAA developers who really did not care too much about what they were putting out. It's like everything was revolved around finding 1 to 4 MacGuffins in a kingdom to save the princess or stop some evil sorcerer. Everything on a turn-based basis. And it's not to say I hate the turn-based medium. I've always been more of a fan of action RPGs and things like that, with again a couple exceptions to the turn-based formula. But again, it's because there has been so much repetition over the years by people who don't really care what they're putting out so long as they're putting something out and making money off of it, that very much desensitized me to the prospect of quality being left in games. And it goes the same with movies. I feel like there's a lot of major studios out there who do not care at all what they are putting out, so long as they can meet some sort of quota. And
some perceived quota, no less.
exactly.
Like, I've noticed that there are plenty of games and movies that do really well when they're not trying to chase a trend, but in fact trying to be innovative with what they're doing. They do better when they try to break the genre, more so than when they try to chase one.
Right.
Alright. I just want to win!
I mean, I've been pleasantly surprised in recent years by a couple games and films, and so I'm not completely of the opinion that like art is dead or gaming is dead or anything like that. Well, on movies, because I do consider games just as much of an art form as movies.
The comments on your Holy Mountain review would suggest otherwise.
Listen. God. But the thing is, I consider them forms of art because there is so much potential in telling a story, and especially because of the interactivity that is inherent of gaming that allows each person to experience it a little differently, even more than movies, I feel, because you're literally immersing yourself into the story and making yourself a part of the story. And this goes a few steps further for things like the Telltale games. Like so-and-so will remember this decision, things that have long-term effects across various levels or chapters of a game. And so I want to see like more love and care put into like individual experiences when it comes to games. Like, again, single player care and just overall care with regards to just something you can actually put your name on with pride. To answer the questions, I'm sorry, I was kind of also glancing away. I haven't played any console games, by the way, for a long time. The last time I even tried was PS2. Yeah.
I have not kept up with those again because I am poor. But also, okay. No, I don't have bits enabled because I have, one, not streamed for over a year, and I have not streamed for a certain amount of time, nor consistently. So that's one of the other reasons why I want to start doing these preliminary streams, is to try and not just get into the feel of it, but also to, start racking up some reputation with Twitch, for example.
Yeah.
But I would love to be able to enable that if I can and when I can. I do appreciate that you guys want to support me. Actually, I mean, here's a good time as any. If you would actually like to support me, I do have my Patreon. I believe that it is a link on the stream page underneath like the actual video itself. There should be like social, and there should be like a link to the Patreon. That helps me out from month to month, and various reward tiers include also the Patreon Discord server, where I actually directly chat with people and share bits and pieces. Like, you get little insight and snippets into my daily life and all of that stuff, as well as doodles and anything that happens day to day. Things like quotes from my conversations with, like, say, Griffin or other people that I talk with. Really? How does it come down to just those two categories, huh?
I mean,
I do spend a lot of time.
Yeah.
The Discord server is a nice, quiet place, because there aren't as many people there. There are even some people who are on the $5 tier, because that's $5 to get into the Discord server, that have opted not actually to join the Discord server, which in some ways is good, because the more crowded it gets, the more actually moderating I'll have to do, and actually have to like tell my moderators to moderate. But like, anyway, so all of this promotion for Patreon is for the folks who, I know that also a one-time, here, have some bits sprays with bits, is completely different. I do technically have a coffee, which I don't believe that I have linked in the social media. I might have linked in the social media tab. It's been a while since I checked that. Oh. Well, I mean, I would appreciate that, Carl. But yeah, anyway, all of this promotion for the Patreon stuff, I apologize for being like, hey guys, give me money! But...
You fucking sellout.
I know. Well, it's weird. It's almost like this is kind of the only thing that I can really do right now to make a living on. It'd be nice
I know,
if
right?
I could...
Weird that.
It'd be nice if I could go out there and get a regular-ass job, but unfortunately I have a few compounding illnesses that make it really difficult to do so. So if I can do this, and if I can make the videos and make, the streamings and all of that stuff, and, and do that full-time and be able to make a living off of that, then it would be a dream come true. It would make my situation considerably less stressful. Yes, I do have the coffee linked on my Tumblr, usually whenever I post the videos. But either way. Anyway, thank you guys. I appreciate again that you guys want to support me. So, all of that aside, let's go back to absorbing the 3 repulsors. Oh god, I hate this level. This pissed me off so much the first time I played it. No. Okay, that's better. No. Okay.
Oh, man.
I'm good.
Are you, though?
No, I'm not.
That's what I thought.
I know you know better than this, Griffin. You know I'm not okay. One of our ongoing jokes is actually, are you okay? Define good.
Oh, God. Are we going to go into this?
He's doing that because he's the one that coined it.
Okay, so for reference, this past couple years, it's been a little tense for me trying to finish up, like...
Nice voice crack, dude.
Like my master's degree and also what I essentially do for a living, and it often leaves me very mentally exhausted. And one night I was sounding, I believe, especially exhausted, and Laura asked, "Are you all right, dude?" And I was like, "Define good," because I thought she said, "Are you good?"
And yeah. Turns out he was not okay or good. And I called him. I was like, I asked if you were okay, but I think that answers my question, doesn't it? So it's become this thing that whenever we ask, "Are you good?" or "Are you okay?" we usually ask, "Define good" or "Define okay."
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think any of us are okay. I think the universe is a constant state of decay, which means that the okayness of the universe and ourselves by extension is in fact always in question.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Magic Lorelei's stream. Today we're going to talk about the ultimate heat death of the universe.
And now he's put that out there on the internet.
Ah, boy.
Ah, yes, the voice that gets him flustered to realize that he's doing.
Why did you have to spell it out?
Okay.
Of course you pulled out the Ojo-sama.
With the hand on the side of the face. Can't forget the hand on the side of the face.
Of course not.
But,
It's like peanut butter without jelly, or chocolate.
I'm allergic to peanut butter, you asshole.
I know.
You dick! You hear how much of a dick he is? I'm like, oh, I'm allergic to peanut butter, and he's all like, I know you are. That's why we were literally just last night talking about all of the peanut butter sandwiches I wish I could make, and can't.
Yeah.
I was talking about like the s'more peanut butter, where you have like some chocolate and like the fluff on top of that, the marshmallow fluff.
Yes, and I was talking about like peanut butter pie, which is like a childhood favorite of mine when it comes to desserts.
And then there's peanut butter with banana and honey on top of it. Anyway. But yes, I am allergic to the peanut butter. I am allergic to legumes, which is really unfortunate because one of my favorite foods in the universe, confirmed, is hummus. And hummus, if you don't know, is made with chickpeas, which is, ding ding ding, a type of legume. Now, fortunately, it's not as bad with hummus as it is with, like, straight beans, but if I eat hummus, I can expect at least my mouth to get a little sore without going into TMI territory. So it's not something that I can do for an extent, and yet, despite knowing that I'm allergic to this shit, doesn't stop me from eating it. But straight
Oh
up,
my god.
Mm?
So, someone in the chat has never had peanut butter.
Oh.
That is unfortunate.
I mean, if people haven't had... I mean, that's the thing. There are many foods in this world that I have not had. And there are many that I will not ever have, like sushi, which is a shame because I know that it's good, but I can't do it because it has seafood in it.
Yeah. Boy. But again, it seems you and I do, when we stop and think about it, we do talk about different kinds of foods we either have not had in years or can't have.
Yeah. Also, we're looking at Absorb the Attractor. So remember that thing that has been at the center of all of these orbital puzzles so far? Yeah, our job is to become large enough to absorb that.
I was gonna say, like, it seems like eventually it would be possible to get big enough to absorb that sun thing.
That sun thing.
I mean, that's what you're orbiting.
The sun, yes. I will absorb the sun. The center of my universe. I will take it into myself. That sounds like an abusive relationship.
I mean...
Or a really bad romance novel.
I mean, again, ¿por qué no los dos?
Yes. Okay.
Looks at the majority of romance manga out there.
Listen. Just because you don't like the idea of romantic things doesn't mean all of us have to.
It depends on the type of romance, okay?
Jet!
Like for me, it's the stuff I take issues like, oh no, he's like this dark, edgy, like actually toxic person, but I can change him because love conquers all. That's the stuff that tends to, set off my alarms.
I understand, and you're not wrong. The thing is that I agree that in real life, especially, that kind of thing ends up setting it ends up setting up an unrealistic standard where you can supposedly change the behavior of the person that you're romancing because of the power of love, which is really most often not the case, and a lot of people actually rely on you believing in that sort of method, that sort of myth, that I can change him if I love him enough.
Yeah.
That's really not true, and it's really unfortunate that we have that as a thing in our society. Because it's really toxic, and ultimately is literally something that leads to really unhealthy relationships, as well as expectations in relationships. It leads to, if nothing else, it leads to some people doing all of the emotional labor in a relationship, which can be really dangerous in itself. Okay. Trying to keep track of the size of myself versus the object in the middle.
Yeah. So, yeah, and unfortunately, at least with regards to my personal experience, it seems like that's the majority of setups I've seen in like many romantic anime and manga. Now that said, I suppose the opposite could be argued in that I am very like selective and stick in the money when it comes to this types of romance stories I do enjoy, like in terms of like, because you yourself have pointed this out that I tend to prefer very like saccharine, like over the top sweet things like Monogatari, which is absolutely adorable, and it could be raised that I don't like conflict or challenging ideas when it comes to romance stories, which is a valid point to bring up. Is I think when it comes to romance, I get really concerned about the people involved in the story and want to make sure they don't get hurt, but that's sort of unavoidable with any story, regardless of whether it's related to romance or not.
Yeah.
But things like Ore Monogatari and the disappearance of Nagato Yuki-chan and Oh god, what was the name of that one about the girl whose classmate is a mangaka?
Mangaka.
Yeah.
Monthly Girls, Nozaki-kun.
Yeah, that one. That was another one I enjoyed.
Listen to me trying to speak Japanese, right?
I mean, you do it better than me.
Nozaki-kun. Come on, let me absorb it! You piece of shit! Talk about unhealthy relationships.
I was gonna like, listen to us talking about these sweet, like, over-the-top sugary romances. Like, get over me, you piece of shit!
Let me eat you! Very different type of romance, that. Come on!
That Earth-chan anime is getting pretty dark.
Would you... Stop. I say this after screaming my lungs out, and yet you're the one I'm chastising to stop.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they actually did end up making an Earth-chan anime.
I don't even know what you're talking about, but that's okay. I don't know what you're talking about, and somehow I am okay with this knowledge.
There's nothing to really talk about. It was mainly just a movement to try and, like, anthropomorphize the Earth as, like, an anime girl to try and raise more awareness of, like, environmental, like, protection and just general cleanliness. Trying to, you know, clean up after the Earth.
Fucking hell! Let me do this. Oh. Fuck. No! I was big
You got
enough!
this, partner.
I was big enough! I was big enough to eat the sun! It took it away from me! I give up. Oh,
Why'd you turn it to Krusty?
I'm very crusty right now. Okay. Alright. Okay. That has been roughly 2 hours of streaming, which is about what I was setting out to do today anyway.
Poral or.
Poor or. Oh my god.
Yes.
Psst. Hey, I'm a horse.
Psst. Hey, it's me. I'm a horse.
Oh my god. Welcome to ASMR.
Shout out to the Steven Bomb.
Yep, a lot of folks are just joining in, so I'm getting ready to close up for the day. I don't know exactly when I'm going to be streaming next. Generally speaking, like, hit the follow button. I hate to sound like that, Jesus Christ. But, hey!
Smash that like button!
Smash that like button in the face and punch it and then kick it and then beat it to death slowly with your shoe as you can hear the crunch of it underneath the heel of your shoe as you hit it over
And shake
over.
that notification bell in the kidneys!
And be sure to hit the notification bell to be alerted the next time that there's a video upload. Also, hit the follow button, and probably follow my Twitter. I'm probably going to be posting, like I did today, like, hey, by the way, I'm going to be doing a stream, so multiple ways to keep track of when it is that I'm going to be streaming.
Just Tyrone Magnus, this bitch.
But I'm hoping to be doing some more of that in the next week or so, especially as I get ready to head out to go visit Griffin here. There are going to be 2 weeks that I'm not going to be able to stream. 1, because I won't be home, and 2, because it will be Griffin's internet, which, as we covered earlier, will be an extremely limited resources.
It's a festering pile of dog snot. Let's not sugarcoat it.
Okay, there you go. Festering pile of dog snot. That's another interpretation. It's very valid. But beyond that, I'm hoping to be doing this a little bit more often, and then after I get back, pretty much almost immediately after, and I'm going to be posting a video to my channel so that y'all can see this for sure, but a couple of weeks, or within a week actually, after I get back, I am planning to do my usual anniversary stream, which is going to be on August 6th. So those of you in the stream now are going to have advance notice of this. August 6th, I'm going to put out the specific time when I figure that out. I am going to be doing my anniversary stream. I don't know how long it's going to be. I don't know what games I'm going to play. But that is going to be the start of my streaming once a week on Mondays. Probably sometime in the evening, similar start time to today, something like 4 or 5 in the evening my time, which is central, so 5 or 6 p.m. Eastern time zone. And let's see, I think it's 6 hours ahead of me, so it'll be like 11 p.m. GMT, I believe. Something along those lines. And I'm hoping to be keeping that up at least once a week, otherwise letting people know through things like Twitter or Tumblr or various servers, like my Discord server if you want to join for $5 a month.
Yes.
But I'm hoping to be doing this a little bit more regularly, just because I love, chatting with you guys and being able to see your responses and chat with you. Oh, British time. I don't know, Jay. I'm an American. I am an American, which means I don't know anything.
I
But
mean,
I know that I don't know, which makes me better automatically and immediately superior to all of my other fellow Americans. Anyway.
that's because that's how that works.
That is indeed how it works, but... So...
Okay, Canada.
Go fuck yourself! But anyway. But I am hoping to be back doing more of that more often, so... it's probably not going to be Osmos the next time that I do streaming. I'm going to see about possibly streaming on Monday. The weekends are usually a bit more touchy for me to stream because that's also usually when my roommate streams, and when you have one person streaming, that takes up a huge amount of bandwidth, never mind when you have two. So, thank you guys all for tuning out today. Turning out today and tuning in. Dear fucking Lord.
Thank you all so much for putting out today. Wait, what?
This from the Vanilla Bean. Hey, Griffin. Teeth. Anyway.
I hate you.
I'm sorry if it ends up kind of overlapping with your schedule, Archer. I know that can be really inconvenient, but from everything that I've been able to see, Mondays would probably be my best bet, because other days of the week are better for, like, recording with other friends, or doing, being able to get in touch with other people and do regular stuff throughout the week. Anyway. But yes, I am looking forward to being able to do this more often, and thank you guys all for watching today, and I look forward to seeing you the next time I stream. See ya?
Take care, everyone.
Yee. Bye!